we're gonna start off with the just general thoughts on the chapter, and then we'll move on to more granular questions. I'll start off with my thoughts while you guys type. I like the chapter. It was interesting. We got to explore a little bit more of the Ilvris style relationship. This is yet another chapter where Pirate uses bathrooms in a humorous way. I think it probably isn't last time, but the last time I more vividly remember was the Callan for banquet and the Ivory Five being stuck in the bathroom together. So, this is, I think, another of their kind of long line of kind of leveraging that scenario for humor. And I think it kind of just, it's like, this is just a thing that could happen to a regular person, right? So that was kind of, that brought some levity to the chapter. I thought overall, setup chapter, definitely the end with Aaron posting the quest. I mean, definitely saw a lot of discussion around that, so very curious to get people's thoughts on that later. But that was big. We got the talk moments again. The inn did not fall down. It was okay, no buildings were harmed in the making of that quest. But that was very interesting, and I think there's just some very interesting character interactions that might happen. I think Zeski is a very interesting character. Curious to see where she goes from here. She's level 50, hasn't leveled in a while. I think that probably has to do with her being captured by her class. I wonder if Aaron or somebody else at the end can help her with that. I have some speculation on that character, but we can get into that when we get into more detailed questions. All right, Mr. Wiggles, you're up first.
So just first off, 8.5 out of 10 chapter for me. I really liked it. It was a good one. Definitely enjoyed it. You're right in that it was more of a setup chapter. There's definitely stuff coming in the future from this chapter. This isn't the finish of the arc. We can see that, Aaron is just getting off to a start with trying to help Ilvris, and Ilvris is just getting reacquainted with Aliscor. But I love seeing Ilvris come back. I love seeing Zeski interact with Aaron. I didn't know I needed a Zeski point of view until we got a Zeski point of view, because she just brought such a unique insight into characters, especially Aaron. And you're right on the bathroom humor, that it was really funny. Just, I don't know, some people, I know it bothers them because they just don't like that kind of humor. But for me, it's always funny to see. And it's just something that obviously I feel like Pirate Abba is bringing from their own personal experience in many ways. And yeah, so it was just a really good chapter. I can't wait for the next part of the arc. I still think the origin arc would have been my favorite one, but this is very good as well anyways. So yeah, great chapter so far.
Yeah, I definitely understand people not being on board with the bathroom humor. I just felt like to mention it because it's definitely been a recurring theme of Pirates writing for a while now. So, Sidehammer, you're up.
Yeah, so I really love this chapter. Plenty of Aaron. I really enjoyed seeing the dynamic of the Jumpscale family. They are so dysfunctional. I mean, the two of them think Ilvris is a traitor. The other one's a Drake supremacist, basically trying to recapture his old life. Ilvris is only barely hanging on because he met Aaron and stuff. I thought that was really interesting. I don't know if I was a biggest fan of the bathroom stuff, but it did come off to me as oddly intimate. It feels like almost of all of Aaron's quote unquote suitors, it feels as if it was the most intimate of interactions. Almost like, just being so comfortable with another, you can go to the bathroom in front of them. That type of feeling almost. Or, having been through something like that. I don't think she has that connection with any of the others. So that was interesting. I really enjoyed. They really played up the ship between Elvis and Aaron, and I just enjoyed it. And, the with Zale, uh, pulling out his detect truth, uh, his lies, detect lies ring and stuff. While he said he didn't love her or have any romantic notions, putting a little kibosh on that idea, not so much. And then Zesky, uh, that was great. I've been waiting to see her her perspective on Aaron. She recently was observed by Olvema and someone knowing, exactly what the other person wants, and it was always like kind of too complicated or something like that. So it was fun to get Zesky's like actual class powered limit, image of it, and I loved them both like bouncing off of each other. That was great because obviously Zesky is a perfect mirror, and Aaron is so in tune with people's emotions. He's like, uh, you know, she could see it, she can't or she couldn't like comprehend how someone could get to where Zesky was. How she'd have to be that. Personally, I think it's possible that Aaron has never met someone so broken as Zesky, and she's not sure how to excuse me, how to fix it. And that's a really interesting idea to me. But I loved all of Elvis and Aaron, and I can't wait for more.
All right. Yep. I think I don't know. I think like definitely the chapter showcased a lot of like Elvis and Aaron are a lot more comfortable with each other. Like Zesky, we saw the point of view of like Aaron's lowering her guard down for Elvis a little bit, maybe not as much with other folks. So that was interesting. Edron, you're next.
Yes, I think it was a 9 out of 10 chapter, not just 8.5 out of 10. And I was hoping that Ilvris would travel back ever since Aaron came back, and now I got it. It didn't disappoint. Pirate Abba's interactions or interaction between characters has always been their strength, in my opinion. And you just got everything from Ilvris trying to overcorrect his first impression to falling back into his old self when he started ranting about the beach, and Aaron is just getting madder and madder. It's just laughing my ass off. Very interesting between Ryoka and how do you pronounce her name correctly? Seski?
We don't know. Just go for Zesky.
Yeah, the interaction was very interesting. I really thought that she and Ovama would hit it off exactly instantly. I kind of hope that there will be a conversation between those two could be very interesting. And the end of the chapter is really, really shook me. I even wrote Wiggles one line that just sent shivers down my spine with the with the line where at some point you gotta draw a line and make a stand, and this is the line. Eren going full war banner mode again, and I always love seeing Eren's like serious hard, I even would say hardcore mode side, and getting Lionet's reaction to that was just perfect, and I can't wait what comes out of this. I like the chapter very much. Yes.
Yep, definitely. You know, definitely curious to get people's thoughts later on in the discussion around the ending. Fire, you're up next, and folks, I'm gonna select the next question and post it. So feel free to start kind of like after Fire goes. I'll read the last 4 here, and then we can move on to the next question.
So I would rate this chapter an 8 out of 10 for me. I've always loved Ilvris and his family dynamics, his sisters, and how they're kind of on opposite sides of the political spectrum. And one of the best things about the chapter was just seeing all of his family and his secret spy agency, which I kind of have no faith in that it's actually going to work against Askaresh, but that's beside the point. Kind of all commingled together, especially Zeski. She was such an interesting character, not just her class, but because she reminded me a lot of Shriekblade. I feel like they have a lot of parallels between them. Both of them have clear mental trauma from something that may have happened in their past, or maybe Shriek just we're not really sure of, and both of them try to hide it, while Shriekblade does it more like literally. Zeski is doing it through her class itself. So I thought that was interesting. And what concerned me the most is Ilvris's and Zidagen's interactions with each other. One almost wonders if Zidagen knew what Lady Uva was planning, or could have assumed that she was planning and was warning Ilvris, or in some way subtly threatening him. It's kind of unclear, at least to me, what Zidagen was. It seemed like warning that was actually a subtle threat. So I'm kind of curious what will happen. And Eren did say that you have to take a stand, but at the same time, what will the consequences of taking a stand be? Not just for her, but for Ilvris, who's actually going to be taking the journey and won't have Eren or her like high-level friends to protect him. Is Eren going to send any of the knights with him, or like any of her allies? So that's what I'm curious about.
Yep. Totally agree with. Kind of like curious about how this will develop. And yeah, the Ilvris family dynamic is definitely interesting. I guess the Gemskill family dynamic. And it's interesting seeing how like Xyle basically, getting back into it is impacting that. Just gonna quickly read through these 4, and we can move on to the next question. So, Mystical Pie says, I enjoyed seeing more of Ilvris with his relationship with his father, and the setup for Ilvris' upcoming arc is definitely interesting. I am looking forward to Eren and Zeski figuring out each other out and seeing how much of a shit show Ilvris exploration is, but it feels like that might be Volume 10 material. I agree that we're probably not going to get like this resolved this volume. It's going to probably be something, we have a 6-month time frame, so we'll probably just come back to it from time to time. Brack Giraffe says, poor guy wasn't prepared for the Eren even after all his preparation. Yeah, I agree with that. Pancake says, chapter amazing, Eren, Bala, and Ilvris will be taken to Brazil, which crossed out the beach. Zeski is the most interesting character in the entire book to me right now. Can't wait to see how she does. And let's go with all the weird, crazy people that hang around there and own both thrones! ! And Woo Woo is saying, I was happy to see Ilvris be upset with Eren letting in Tyrion. I feel like there haven't been enough scenes of characters upset with his presence considering what he did. As readers, we can understand why she's doing it, but I feel like Eren allowing in a guy that tried to get a city killed should have got more scenes from Drake's. think of the chapter 5 bidets, how to switch 6 toilet paper rolls. Yeah, that's a good point. I you know, I will say I thought it was very interesting that Elvers had the reaction of like Tyrion coming to the end, and then Elvers kind of saying to Jin again, "Hey, you have like this, Magnolia was able to walk in the north, and why can't I or walk in the south? Why can't I go north?" But he just had that reaction to Elvers, so I thought that was interesting. Next question's around the kind of Gemscale family. So, what's your opinion of the Gemscale household, mother and daughter? If your son, the son is a traitor, the father is a Drake supremacist, how did they get so broken? I will just start by saying, yes, they're not a perfect family. I don't know that they are. I hesitate. This is kind of how the question was written. I just say, I don't know that they are like that broken. That maybe is a little bit of biasing the question. So, um, I think they have their difficulties for sure. But it's not like they have a difficulty in engaging conversation, but they still like love each other. It's not that they don't. It's just they have different opinions and are trying to deal with that. Like everybody was proud when like Zyle was able to pull out the win, even though for Ilvris that was kind of like he felt like, oh well, my dad's coming back into it type of thing, but he was still proud of it. So I think that it's not like I think they have some difficulties. I don't know that I necessarily agree with the question in terms of it's all so bad, but definitely not great. So Wolf, you're first.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I don't think the family's broken, not by a long shot. We see a lot of points in this chapter where the family definitely cares for each other. Zale, for sure, is just a loving father, and we saw that a lot last chapter. And I think a lot of the differences and the divides in the family come from the fact that you have Zale, who is a pretty stereotypical wall lord, and like he's like a Drake supremacist. He's all about, getting glory and that kind of stuff and trying to stand out. You have Naveen, and I think Naveen is just not independent enough. She seems to be very much hanging on to her mother because I think almost every time we see her, she's either doing something that seems like her mother might have ordered, or it seems like she's just closer to that side of the family. And then meanwhile, we have Ilveris, and he's extremely independent. He just is willing to go ahead and do whatever he thinks is right, even if none of his family members thinks that's the case. So I think that's more or less where the divide comes from. They just aren't aligned.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't think that's necessarily an unusual thing. In terms of like different family members have different opinions. Um, I don't necessarily know that. Yeah, and I agree. It's they still they still love each other. It's just they have difficulties, but I don't think that's necessarily all that uncommon. Um, Thetatron is says Zale honestly seems like what a pretty standard wall Lord of Salazar would be like. I think it's everyone else in his family who is quote unquote weird. Yeah, I mean he does feel like a pretty standard wall lord. But I will say he is. I think I rate him a little bit higher just because he like clearly does care for Ilvris, whereas I feel like a lot of these other characters we've been introduced to, I don't know. Maybe it's just we haven't got to know them as well. So, Yash says bidets and bidets and geopolitics. This was probably my favorite chapter. Yep, it was pretty good. Fire says Ilvris used to be a normal Drake Wallor before he got corrupted by Aaron. Yeah, I think I hesitate to say this, but I think we're giving Aaron a bit too much credit. I think it was Zell and also like losing Paris that really started made him question, and Aaron just kind of gave him like Aaron was just like the wall he hit, where it was just like, well, I can't get over this wall, so how do I like I need to start re-examining my life. At least that's kind of how I remember like that character development in Volume 5. But I mean, she definitely did have a big impact. Mystical Pie, I think the political divide in their family is a large part of their dysfunction. Zao and Helesia have probably been politicking against each other throughout their marriage and managed to divide their children. Zao's traditional ideas, politically and socially, are basically tailor-made to break down any open emotional relationship between himself and Ilveris, while Helesia and Naveen aren't able to be as open because of their past political differences with him. They don't know Ilveris well enough to trust him that he isn't a traitor. Yeah, that's fair. The fact that they like are questioning his loyalties is a bit definitely speaks to that dysfunction. Pancake says, generally, the gem scale household seems a case of Zal and Hesia came together and got married because of how much they liked each other, how much they complimented each other, and then they had such differing opinions as they got older about Israel, what Israel is for Drakes or for everyone who lives there. They fell out of love, and it took Aaron to bring Ilveris to the side of Hesia. Old age also keeps them separated. Nisi, would you be able to go on mute? Or they fell out of love, and it took Aaron to bring Ilveris to the side of Hesia. Old age also keeps them separated with Hesia on life support. All right, Mr. Wiggles, you're up.
So I know you didn't think of it as you didn't think their family was super broken or generous, but I do feel like they are extremely dysfunctional in just how they act. And I think a large part of that is simply because they're a walled family. Nobility and families with a lot of power behind them, they tend to have very dysfunctional circumstances just because of how the children are taught, how they're made to grow up in a specific way. And you can see that here. Elveris has has been influenced a lot by his father for many years, but now that he's come back from Liscor with a different set of ideals, he's really gotten into a lot of conflict with his father now. And he's always been kind of estranged from his mother and his sister simply because they have different ideals from him. And so that kind of disconnect where one side of the family has different ideals, but the father figure, the mother figure, they all want you to do some specific way. They want you to be some specific way, and they have like a lot of power, so they want to always be in control. It gets really dysfunctional. So it just kind of like what I see is the stereotypical noble family in a lot of fantasies and just in real life too. They just have a lot of issues that are very hard to deal with because of who they are.
Yeah, that's fair. I guess like I don't disagree that they're dysfunctional, but I think there's probably like a scale. I was just thinking of this, like, Ilveris and Naveen and Hesia, like Zyle kind of. I mean, yeah, Zyle doesn't agree with their views, but they're allowed to like. I mean, kind of openly hold those views enough to where like they can politically organize around them. Like, if we compare this to something like Calenfer, like all the kids are just basically like political tools to get married, right? So I just I think Fire. I'm gonna read this out. What's a real dysfunctional family? Reinhardt's, right? So I think there's a scale. Definitely not perfect, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't know that they are. The like case study of like this is the most dysfunctional. I mean, in a way they are, but they're I'd say maybe like I don't know lower not like great, but like not like terrible. I'm gonna put the next question here. Yes, you're up.
Hi, am I audible? Okay, I'm just gonna go. Yeah, like Mr. Wiggles pretty much said what I wanted to say. Like he stole the words right out of my mouth. Damn you. But I think it's just a normal political family. That's how they are. They view things from a very macro level. I don't think they really get into the nitty-gritties of what usual people consider their day-to-day interactions. They see, and I've seen this, I've experienced this almost in families around me. Children, especially, uh, given that the value of work that their parents do, kind of dissociate themselves, or rather are hesitant from bringing their what would be considered petty problems to their parents, which essentially is what bonding takes place over. Like they've never really, Zell has never really had a chance to be a parent, all things said and done. He was always at war, and whenever he came back, he was more like a hero to Elvres. He was never a father. Like he's father in a name, but that's about it. Um, so the kind of divide is natural, like it's to be expected, and it's very evident in the families here, like wherever you go, any kind of rich political family. What is, however, interesting about their family dynamic is that they want to be a real family. They try, and or at least they try to um, hold up the charade of a real family. And yet they're extremely individualistic people living under the same roof. They're not even close to their own extended family. So what does that say about them? It talks about how power is more important than familial relations. Um, so I think that's just very stock political family trying to be better, but not really getting there. And Elvris, I think before moving to the inn, before he was, so if you look at Erin's interactions with Elvris, right, she never talks to his position, she talks to him. And I don't think that's ever happened to him before. Even his own father used to talk to him, never talk to him. He used to talk to the position of Elvris. Like, you know how your class starts seeping into your personality? Uh, you can talk about that social position. It's something very similar. Your social position starts seeping into your personality, so to speak. And that's what had happened with Ilbris. He was never a person, he was just a figurehead for the position that he held. Um, Erin was the one who personalized him. And when she did, it started seeping into the rest of his family because he started doing that to the other people in his family as well. That's why we have so much development. Had he not met Erin, I don't think they would have taken those steps. Hmm. Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, I really like that. That was very well like described there in terms of you know people talking to his class or his position and not to Overus, and kind of like I didn't make that connection, but yeah, like his dad always being the hero, and I feel like Overus kind of like feels like he has to live up to that. And
I don't think it's as simple as living up to that. I think it's more like this. Okay, so think of it this way. The son of a carpenter becomes a son, not because the son wants to do anything else, simply because he's not been exposed to anything else.
I see. Okay.
So at least there's a very similar saying where I'm from about this. But think of it this way. And I think Pirate mentioned this in the text as well. He's not good anything else. He's just a good warlord.
Got it.
Like,
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like he doesn't even know that there's other options of things he can do. He's just like, I have to be I have to be a warlord of Salazar.
and I think now we're seeing him explore what warlords can mean. It's not just the definition that's been set by his father.
Yep. I think Sidehammer, I think this is for this question, you're saying, I'm surprised there wasn't any development between Naveen and Over since the events in Tesla. Yeah, I mean, they haven't had the formal conversation. That Naveen and his mom did like look into Ostia and that. Okay, next question is the kind of zesty question, so feel free to put any thoughts on the character here. I just captured the questions that were kind of try to paraphrase the questions that were in the doc, which are how will Aaron and Zesky interact? Why can't Zesky get a read on Aaron? And can Zesky recover her identity from class? So if you wanna like answer any of those, go ahead. Wofu, you're up first.
Yeah, I think in this chapter we were kind of told how we should expect them to interact. Aaron and Zessie are trying to figure each other out. I don't know why Zessie can't get a read on Aaron, but I think it probably has something to do with Aaron having died and come back and just being a weirdo in general. And I don't think Zessie can recover her identity, but I think she can recover an identity that she wants. So if she ever felt like just firming up and just choosing a face, I don't see why she wouldn't be able to just be like, all right, this is who I am. I want to be this person, and so that's what I am. And so, yeah, that's what I think is going on with Zessie. That's also how I pronounce her name.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, I guess my thoughts on my thoughts are similar to yours. I think they'll, they're trying to figure each other out. I will say, in terms of Zesty recovering her identity, I'm wondering if she has like the like black status, which is invisible to the person from her class, or she has some like red skills also. Which, Yvonne, had to get the plague steel removed. She didn't know she had it until she learned she had it. It wasn't visible to her. So I'm wondering if like, that's potentially a road for recovery where it's like, the mechanism the mechanism through which she's lost her identity is through like that black status effect, which maybe she can get rid of. I mean, that may not be the case. It may just be like, hey, you got too deep into the class. And then in terms of why she can't get a read on Aaron, I mean, Aaron's a witch, which is, good with emotions and emotional defense, I guess. So that's probably a big reason for it. Mr. Wiggles.
So just in general, I love Zexia as his character. She, her point of view was extremely unique, and it just gave us some really great insight into some characters that we just wouldn't have gotten otherwise. So that's just off the bat. I really like her. And in terms of Aaron and Zesky, I really feel like Aaron is going to treat her a lot like how she treats Tessa. She sees someone who has gotten completely subsumed by her class and has been turned into a mirror in her mind. And as soon as Aaron can see past that and see like what maybe see kind of what Ryoka is seeing, I think Aaron will try and actually talk to her and try and help Zesky try and find herself, which is really important, I think, for Zesky, is to get a sense of self. And I do think Zesky can do that in the future at some point, even if she has to make a new part of herself rather than find out who she was before. That's perfectly possible. I feel like Zesky is someone that Aaron will want to help in the future, or will want to just try and get her to view herself more as a person, really. As to why Zesky can't get a read on Aaron, it's kind of explained in a chapter, and how it's like how it was viewed by Zesky. Aaron is just someone who naturally does it naturally has up a bunch of walls between herself and other people. And I think a lot of that has to do with how she was transported to this world and how her early experiences defined her. She hasn't ever been truly safe in this world since then. And so she naturally developed a bunch of defenses to wall herself off. But she does connect with some people. She tries to appear nice, and she tries to uh, be nice to people, but she's walled herself off uh, because of all of what she's gone through. And that's kind of what Zesky is saying.
That makes sense. I will add one thought. I think like Zeske will not level until she can like get a handle on her identity. She's been stuck in 50 for 6 years. I think, getting through, I think she's going on this journey in part because she's like, kind of because she's stuck, right? This could provide kind of the necessary impetus to get some levels. So Mystical Pie says Zesky/Aaron interactions feel like there'll be some combination of Aaron forcing Zesky to open up emotionally, and Aaron doing witchy stuff to try and get Zesky to remember who she is. I'd like to think it's possible for Zesky to recover identity, but at level 50, I don't know. The grand design can be very cruel. I agree with that. It definitely can be. I don't know that Zesky will be able to get Aaron open up emotionally because I feel like that role is kind of being handled by Obama, like like with the dance training and like her being honestly, I remember seeing in chat somebody being like, "Oh, Aaron needs a Ressa," and I'm like, "Well, that's what Obama is, right? Obama is the person who can tell her to her face that, hey, you're messing up here." Cal says, "I suspect like-fine memory will come into play with Zesky and Aaron. As for Zesky reading Aaron, Aaron's middle name is Repression." Yeah, that is unfortunately true. Cal says Obama's more physical support, Aaron needs someone for emotional support. I think I don't necessarily disagree, but I feel like it's not like it can't just be like somebody random coming in and doing that. Yash, you're next.
So I think we're thinking about it very simplistically. I honestly don't think Zeshi, that's how I say her name, Zeshi should find her identity. I think she's a great insight into how the grand design works. She can be anything, she can be anyone. And while she can not replicate classes, perhaps as she grows, as she skills up, or as she levels up, that can be one of the things. She can maybe replicate classes or skills, but maybe not to the extent. Like if someone has greater strength, she'll have, I don't know, like basic strength, things like that. I think that'll be very interesting to see. I think we have a great insight into how the grand design works through Zeshi. I think Erin will realize that this is something that she can use. Perhaps as to her identity, I have a theory. I think she's a lizard folk. She's from the lizard folk category because she reminded me a lot of the girl, the slave girl, the freed slave girl that Pisces found, like, or was one of Pisces' friends in those chapters. I forget her name. Uh, she did remind me a lot of those, and the fact that she finds herself in this profession it does not surprise me if she was a victim of human trafficking, and perhaps she has forgotten her identity as a defense mechanism more than the class seeping into herself. I think she willingly gave up her identity uh, to be recognized as her class alone because her class is power, whereas her identity might not be. And I think that will be more interesting to see. I think it's going to be a long, long road till Zeshi finds out who she is, and it's not going to be the next level up, like level up. It's going to be much further, much after that, if she ever does get it. But I think she's one of those characters who's meant to be this way, a very ambiguous character. I don't think the road to redemption, if such exists, will be very useful for her as a plot line. Um, yeah, and why Erin is invisible to her? Again, I have a theory here. One, of course, Erin died and came back, but also if you look at Erin, right? She's not really. Of course, she has agency, but her agency is more of pretense. It's a lot of what Zeshi does herself. It's more of what is expected and doing the opposite. It's almost algorithmic in a sense. Um, if there was an algorithm to, if there was an algorithm to, sort of map out Brownian motion, I think Erin would be that. I think it's high levels of unpredictability, and also the fact that Erin herself has not found herself. She's not firm on. She has a set of beliefs, but I don't think she identifies with them on a very deeper level. She believes them because she ought to believe in them. Um, Erin's own sense of self is extremely lacking. Those walls are probably the walls that she has put up herself. I don't know. Because I'm thinking of Erin's character development since she came here. Even before she came to the in world, Erin was mostly defined by her love for chess. As a person, she never expressed interest in anything except chess. Again, extremely algorithmic, right? And here, Erin has been acting not through a sense of purpose. Erin doesn't have an end purpose. She's living very day to day. Like, she doesn't have a grand plan. Things are happening to her and she's making very short term goals. She doesn't have a very long term plan. I don't think she knows who she is. And that's what is reflected when Zeshi looks at her. And also, I think it'll have something to do with the Fae. I think Erin is part Fae or whatever. And that's why Zeshi is also struggling to come to terms with her. Yeah.
Okay. Um, I I don't know that I fully agree with the line of Erin doesn't know who she is. I mean, to an extent, yes. I think the lack of long-term goals is because the world might end, so kind of hard to have a stable long-term planning. But yeah, no, I appreciate the thoughts. I'm gonna get through the rest of these, and then I'm gonna post the next question. Actually, I'll just post it now. So the next one will be about the quest, and that will also include the whatchamacallit, like thoughts on the decision to post it, the impact of it, and things like that. I'm gonna read these here. Datacron says, I don't think Zeski's inability to read Erin has anything to do with Erin's class. I tend to tunnel vision, but I really can't think of any other reason for it aside from Erin's repressing how she feels a lot of the time. Erin has to be stressed a lot, considering the burden on her shoulders more than even Ryoko, because she watched the deadlines vanish, but it doesn't seem to affect her as much as it should. I wonder if Zeski is gonna realize she's in her head when she finds a crack in the wall, tries to find out who Eren loves and sees trauma. Like even Ovama probably can't comprehend the scale of that. If everyone understood throughout the gods, there would be an unordinary amount of existential dread. I agree with that. I agree Ovama is much more effective at this. I don't think Zeski will be successful, but she'll try to because Erin's unique and Zeski's not able to read her. That makes sense. Crowd control and her inner aura were shown to interact with skills in aura. and her int or something Zeski mentioned specifically. Her empathy and with skills were focused on emotion, and that may be a part of it, but they seem different. I don't know, maybe the same reason Bella is particularly hard to read as well, though this interaction feels like something new to her, or Earthers interact weirdly with the system, but she didn't seem to notice the other Earthers in the room, I don't think. Could be that Erin is so repressed she doesn't know herself. Dana has a powerful skill. I don't know. Dart Time Gui says maybe Zeski can't read Erin because she's constantly contemplating side and the filter.
DSI. Killing gods. DSI.
Oh, DSide, okay. And the filter blocks Zeski. Maybe. Cal says it might have been me that said Aaron needs Aressa, but that's not at all Venus Row. Aaron needs Aressa because she needs somebody who will disobey orders if that means keeping Aaron safe. Everybody around Aaron mostly does what she says. No one really puts Aaron's safety above her instruction, least of all Aaron herself. Dark Time Gui says if she dies again, she'll need somebody to resurrect her. Well done, sir. Woo Woo, you're up first for the next question around the quest.
Yeah, so I think that Aaron is 100% in the right. I think that we have seen in Magnolia trying to take the slow route to trying to make the bridge the gap between drakes and humans. And the slow route, honestly, if with the time scale that we have with the Return of the Gods, I mean, that time scale wouldn't even work. So with Erin's information, everything that she knows, like trying to shotgun basically the progress of this quest and uniting Israel is 110% the correct decision. Maybe it would be correct if they had more time, but on the time scale that Erin thinks she has, like she's preparing for the dead gods to return in like a month or something like that, or at least make a move. She knows that this needs to be something that, Israel needs to be united. You need more forces against the dead gods. So I agree with it in the bigger picture.
I don't disagree with your logic at all. I will say that there is a cost to doing it this way, and I think a lot of characters at the end of the chapter were kind of like highlighting that, like, this person's kind of crazy doing this. It's gonna, stir up the hornet's nest. But I'll kind of like let everybody else go first, then I'll try to say my whole thoughts. Edgeron, you're up next.
Yes, I also agree with the way Aaron did this. Same reason before as mentioned before me. But I also am kind of shocked because I don't really know. I mean, Aaron should know. I think she does know that what she does is probably costing lives. She is now at a point where she, I don't know if it was casually, I mean, it was intentionally, but she is now at a point where she openly uses the lives of other people to further her. I mean, she has a plan. She wants peace. She wants to unite Israel because of the dead gods, but using such a radical move to draw the line, Aaron, I don't know how to explain it. She's very concerned, always concerned about the lives of her friends and wants to protect them, etc., etc. But at the same time, she just now painted a literal target on her friend's head. And that kind of makes me a bit uncomfortable. I don't know exactly how to say it correctly. I mean, she's obviously she wasn't the right in what she did, what she did, but she should feel a bit more remorse or should feel something, because people can and probably will die because of this, and it's kind of her fault, and she doesn't really care. Well, yeah.
Yep. Thanks, Ed. I don't know that we have a confirmation of her like not caring. But I think that would be like out of line with every other time she's had to make these decisions. But she's making them, so ultimately how much she cares is kind of beside the point, I suppose. Yeah, sure. You want to speak?
I mean,
I think Erin's playing
sorry.
a game. Oh, sorry, go on it.
No,
Go
I just wanted to double down again to say she does care. She obviously does care. Because she cares, that's her trademark. Because the inn is like it, because it is right now, because Erin cares. But yeah, I'm done now.
Thanks,
Shall I
Ed.
go on?
Yeah, sure. You're up.
All right. I think Erin's playing a game here. She is playing the game. She is playing the Fey game. She's affecting fates of the people, and I think this was her opening move against Israel's. She wants to include all the players. She wants to know who the players are, and I don't think she would have put Elvris in danger if she didn't think she would have been able to protect him. I think we'll have to trust her on this one. But so she, for so long, she has been playing a game against opponents she didn't know. Now she wants to figure out who these opponents are. And this was a surefire way of her sort of rooting out or forcing all the players to come out in the open so that she can use them for her own purposes. To show them that, okay, guys, there is something larger here. I do want to talk about how Citizen mentioned that these squabbles that the North and South has, sort of getting back at each other for the previous offense that one side committed against the other. That is never going to end. It's a wheel, and Erin recognizes that. Be it Elvris, be it what happened in the Unseen Empire, be it the graves which are there in Gralton's lands. Um, Erin knows that. She recognizes the value of death more than anyone else, I would say, at this point. And it's not like she doesn't care, but I think she wants the players to come forward so that she can strong arm them into seeing things, if not her point of view, but recognizing that there is something very, very important that they are not focusing on. And I think that was a motivation behind this, not to put Elvris in danger, but to that's what, but to make an assessment of the chessboard, see where everyone is, see what the players are.
I mean, of course it wasn't.
Go ahead, Ed.
Of course it wasn't her point to bring Elvis in danger, but she did. She obviously did. It's even it wasn't her intention of doing it. She, with her action, she put him in danger, probably more than he already was.
And I think she's cognizant of that fact, but she also recognizes that this danger is nothing compared to danger that is to come to a lot more people. You have to, I think she's thinking in terms of putting a pawn in danger to draw the queen out.
Yeah, and that kind of transformation worries me a bit, to be honest.
I've always said Erin is a psychopath. There's a reason why Seshi can't read her. It's probably because she's a psychopath.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Wiggles, you're up.
So I think Erin both knows what she's doing with this and doesn't know what she's doing with this. She's a diplomatic novice who's just getting into the whole large scale diplomatic game. She's put this quest out there because in her mind, at least what I'm feeling right now, what I'm seeing from it, in her mind, she thinks that everyone is already going to know about Ilvris coming into the north. Everyone is already going to see him coming and just say, okay, we're going to send something to deal with him, regardless of what happens. And in Aaron's mind, instead of just letting it all be backdoor deals, letting it all be in the shadows, she wants to bring it all into the light. But at the same time, I don't think Aaron understands that that can come with its own deadly cost. Because if you're directly broadcasting it to everyone, that kind of gives them the go ahead to say, okay, we need to do something about this now because everyone knows about it. Everyone has heard about it. It's all over the news. It's this whole big thing. So now we need to respond to it. Instead of before, they probably would have responded to it in many ways, but it would have been a different response. It would have been, maybe a more measured response. So I don't really agree with Aaron posting the quest overall, simply because Aaron should have talked to Nerul about it. She should have gone to him, formulated a little bit to see if she could get it to be an actually it could word it in a better way. I think if she had done that, it would have been much better overall. But right now, she kind of painted a target on Ilvers's back in multiple ways. She's giving him allies, but she's kind of flipping off all the people who are going to want to go after him, and that's going to raise their hackles a bit. And she knows that. She knows that this is going to put them in danger, but in her view, that is something that they were always going to be in danger of. She just thinks that, it was all going to be shadowy in the dark before, now it's all in the light. But it still has a cost that I don't think she's considered.
Yeah. I kind of agree. I don't know that I think she's a lot more aware of the costs than we give her credit for. I guess I want to get through the rest of these comments here before I give my full thoughts. But Mystical Pie says, I understand Aaron's anger and motivation, but I think she's also massively screwing Ilveris over with the quest. I feel like the best case scenario with this is Ilveris and his team power leveling and against hostile northern nobility being wiped out. This quest kind of felt out of left field for me, and I'm interested to see how it goes. I foresee lots of death. Pancake says, I see a lot of death, but also it does make sense. It does make a stand. It also does make a stand. The Northern ability has to decide, do I want war, do I want peace? It's time for it. With the gods coming back in like 11 days, this is the best thing overall. I think Aaron is pushing, even if it will hurt her friends. Just look to their crossroads. Sidehammer says, I feel like the way to North will push back and then ultimately be defeated by Aaron, which would be another step of Aaron's ascension to quasi-ruler of Israel, above all lords and above the five families. Aaron Summer Solstice, Witch Queen of Israel. Dark Time Gooey says, if the North and South focus on one another, no one noticed the hand hunting for his sword and uncovering god-killing weapons. That is true. Wolfloose says, I forgot to mention that Aaron might also be hedging her bets if Ilveris fights alongside the Nord nobles against whatever Kitsinga's kicking up. Their attitudes might change. As a metaphor, she's planting a seed now. I would like Kitsinga water it on the winter solstice. Pancake says, also like the diplomat said, I don't think Aaron is playing with a small pieces game. She's pushing large groups with this move rather than individual. She's putting names on the board for people like Mags and Chaldean who do play that small pieces game, small pieces being individual nobles. Tavar says, I feel like Narul may force some diplomacy lessons down Aaron's neck. The issue here isn't so much Aaron's quest, so much as running the quest without input from her allies, those she's explicitly helping. Datacron says, Aaron is not all powerful. She couldn't stop Corazon from burning Norman alive or killing a village. She didn't have the resource or the reach. The raiders are small compared to the entire North, which she just slapped in the face. I don't think she has a follow-up. The North isn't united, but Ilver's people will die even if he doesn't. That was probably going to happen anyway, but I think what she did will cause more deaths. It's arrogant to think she can just knock people who come after Ilver's down. It does make sense for her, though. She doesn't respect what, from her perspective, is noble pettiness, especially with the possibility of the entire world ending soon. Things she did against comment about that might have influenced her. And then Sidehammer responds to Mr. Wiggle saying she could have also be trusting Ilver to take care of himself, perhaps. And then Brack, you wanted to speak.
Yeah, I was thinking, like, don't look at the costs of what posting this quest has. Like, look at the costs of not doing it. He was always going to be opposed and he would have had to stumble through negotiations blindly in a territory he didn't really understand. Now, anybody that does talk to him is kind of forced to talk to him in the open because he's going to have eyes on him the whole time he's there. Everybody knows he's there. And that's going to hold them to a certain amount of accountability that wouldn't have been there otherwise. He's going to know who his potential allies were just that much more reliably. He needs that speed right now, especially with the timetable they're on.
Yeah, I kind of agree with your line of thinking here. I guess my thoughts on this are, like, we got to keep in mind Ilver's overall goal and what, like, you know, he kind of just dropped the side quest that Aaron had given him to, like, make Salazar more friendly for turn skills. Like, he was about to accept that, and, like, that was not gonna be any less bad for him than this. Like, we've seen what the Drakes do to, like, to try and suppress turn scales. Like, I mean, just look at Palos and Chaldean. Like, if Ilverus had, like, tried to take that torch up, like, Zell Shivertail couldn't do it. I mean, like, and Zell had, like, way more, you know, in terms of, like, he, in theory, had a lot more going for him from a, like, just in terms of, like, prestige, because, you know, he was a famous general, like, won them a bunch of victories. Like, Zell Shivertail couldn't do that. You know, I don't know that Ilverus was going to be safe anyway. And I think Aaron doesn't like asking a lot out of people she feels like shouldn't be the one giving it, but she has no problem, or not necessarily no problem, but she's a lot more willing to do it out of the people who are in high positions. Ultimately, Ilverus wants to go after Askarash. Askarash is like level 78. I'm gonna just, you know, my hot take here is, like, Askarash is, like, way more dangerous than the entire North. Because the entire North isn't gonna, like, you know, there's only so much resources they're gonna be willing to commit to this. Right? They want to go to the new lands. There's gonna be, like, some of them that aren't gonna be, that don't want to kill him because they want the skill. Right? That there's just, you know, right now the North isn't one entity. Right? Like, Askarash is way scarier. And he wants to go after him, right? Like, if Aaron did it, like, Aaron's trying to give him an opportunity, I don't know that she necessarily has connected the pieces of, like, Ilverus is going after Askarash, but, like, she is basically like, okay, I'm gonna need to be able to rely on this guy at some point in the future. He needs levels. Like, he's, like, mid-30s. He needs to be, like, level 50. Like, let's just be honest here. So, I don't agree with her posting it the way she did without talking to him about it. But at the end of the day, like, if we actually think about where he wants to go, which he stated in this chat, like, he had this little internal monologue of, like, oh hey, I'm gonna go for this False City of Purity to get these anti-undead weapons. I mean, you still need levels. So that's kind of my take. Like, it's kind of a meta perspective, but if he can't handle like going into this hostile environment and dealing with Northern nobles, like how the heck is he gonna handle dealing with Askarash, who's like on the warpath? He's not. I mean, right now it just like feels like a suicide mission. This maybe if he survives this, maybe he has a chance. And I still think like, you know, it's gonna be very costly whenever he gets there, if he gets there. So that's kind of my take. Pancake says nobles can come to him and try to keep him safe if he uses this right because they want to kill that skill and don't care about fighting drakes. Yeah, I mean, North is not one entity. Cal says, I feel like people are ignoring that Erin has more wiggle room than she used to. The Chesterman until Adonis trial. These were not long ago. A lot of people are not going to want to get on her bad side. They also know Magnolia and Tyrion both hang out at the end, and Archmage hangs out at the end. The Windrunners are buddy. They're two Antinium Hives allies.